Hey leaders, so this video is recapping what was talked about this Sunday morning, this past Sunday, just on the high school side. We were talking about James chapter 1, the verse 18 verses, and discussing just what the testing of your faith looks like in our lives. And more, how do we as Christians walk wisely in those trials and temptations, and kind of how do we work through those? So it's just a really interesting passage. If you guys didn't listen to the podcast or haven't even read the passage yet, I'd really encourage you guys to do it. But also in the discussion guide, this can definitely be a week where you can get more personal with your student group and just kind of seeing like where are your students at, like with some of the trials and temptations and struggles and stuff just that they're going through in their life, but more walking through them and encouraging them to walk wisely and what that looks like for them to overcome and to push through those trials. And I kind of related it back to when I was in high school doing track and field, and I had some super hard practices, and if I wouldn't have if I would have skipped those practices, I wouldn't have gotten better. And in the same way, God puts those trials in our lives for us to push through and to make us better and to make our faith more steadfast and more consistent and more immovable. So it's definitely a very relevant passage just for our students and just for our day and age today. But also part of what CSM is doing is creating a discussion guide just that is also focused towards what we're going to be talking about on Sunday. So as this Sunday, as we're going to be finishing up James chapter 1, just kind of look at verses 22 through 25 and what it looks like to be doers of the word and not hearers only, and kind of work through those three verses and just kind of relate that to kind of what was talked about on Sunday, but also just open up the scripture and just in your group. Also in the discussion guide I put in there, this is a great time for you to be able to pull out your blue agreement of expectations card and to just review what your student group is here for, and kind of the first 4 points. And in the first point, it talks about kind of being there for your student group and everybody in the student group being there, just being there for each other in the highs and lows of life. And this is a great time to just kind of reiterate just kind of why we're here as a student group and being able to relate that back to scripture in James chapter 1 in the first 18 verses. But then even looking down further in verses 22 to 25 and what it looks like to actually be doers of the word and to implement that into our life. I also just put a really cool game. It's just a good game just where you can just kind of get to know your student group a little bit more. If your group isn't into games, don't play that. It's just kind of up to your discretion. But our group's done it before and it's been a lot of fun. Just make sure that it doesn't take too long and make sure it doesn't take too much time out of your actual discussion time. But yeah, I hope you guys have a great week discussing. Thanks.